This review is brought to you by Crunchyroll, and viewers like you. Thank you. Why do genres exist? Well, there are many reasons, but the reasoning I like is for the setting of expectations. If you're going into an action anime, you know what to expect. If you're going into a comedy, a drama, a slice of life show, you know roughly what it is you're going to be getting. But when you have a series that goes against the grain of its given genre, it can go one of three ways. It can be a proper melding of several different genres that will fit together to make a unified whole. That's why sometimes you have action-adventure titles or horror supernatural titles. Or you can have absolute abominations that have no idea what they want to be. Is this a comedy? Is this a murder mystery? Who knows? The creators sure don't. Lastly, you can have a show that crosses that uncanny valley of genre bending to create a unique blend of many genres that don't normally mix, combining them into a narrative stew that's a feast for your attention and subverts your expectations. That, I believe, is the best way to introduce the series we're talking about today. Ladies, gentlemen, and others, my name is Arcada, and today on Glass Reflection we are taking a look at the 2018 anime from Geno Studio, the first season of Gourmet. Let's jam. Gourmet Kamuy is an anime series produced by Geno Studio. It was directed by Hitoshi Nanba and is based off the original work by mangaka Satoru Noda. It takes place in a slightly edited version of Japan's own history, just after the Russo-Japanese War in 1905. It follows a veteran of that war, Saiichi Sugimoto, nicknamed Immortal Sugimoto for being one tough badass who charges into impossible situations and somehow lives through all of them. But now, what with the war being over, he's on his own and a bit desperate for money. That is, of course, until he hears about a story. A story about a massive amount of gold taken by a man from the indigenous Ainu population. This man apparently hid the gold somewhere in the Hokkaido region before being arrested, and then, while in jail, tattooed the map to the treasure on the skin of his fellow death row inmates. Sugimoto would normally brush all of this off as just another quack story, except the old man who told it to him was one of those inmates, who mentioned it after drinking a little too much and then in his stupidity tried to kill Sugimoto with his own gun. Bad move. So now Sugimoto thinks that this crazy gold story might actually be something, and the majority of this first season is him and friends tracking down the tattooed criminals with hopes of finding the gold. But friends is a bit of a generous description for most of the individuals with whom Sugimoto ends up traveling with, but it best applies to one other very important character. Shortly after hearing the story and finding his first bit of the gold's map, Sugimoto is attacked by a bear. Hi. So, this bear right here, yeah, we're gonna come back to him. All right? Because he's worth talking about, but I didn't want to like input that here necessarily, so we're gonna come back to it, okay? We're gonna come back to this bear, and everything will be okay. Cool. So, just wanted to put that out there. Sorry to slow you down. We'll continue now. Bye. So he's attacked by a bear and is saved by the young girl, Serpa, an Ainu girl from the area who has a wolf friend and a father who was one of the Ainu that originally collected the gold in the first place, before he was apparently murdered by a crazy psychopath. Serpa is skillful with both tracking and hunting, which makes her an ideal companion to Sugimoto, as neither of them can complete the tracking and capturing of all the tattooed inmates on their own. Plus, narratively, she's too young to be shoehorned into a unnecessary romantic subplot with Sugimoto, for which I am forever grateful, because this show has enough on its plate as it is. This brings me back to my opening paragraph about the show and how it fits into multiple genres, because so far, you can easily see how this show's premise can make it fall under the categories of an action-adventure series, right? Tons of adventure in the quest to find the gold, and action? Well, there's plenty of action to be seen here anytime Sugimoto and his Serpa get into a scrap. It's kill or be killed, after all. But that's not all the show has going for it. For one, the series contains a surprising amount of lightheartedness. It uses plenty of comedic gags to lighten the mood, and it is not beyond going completely off-model for the characters' faces if it helps to add some levity to any given scene. Also, the pair eventually run into a character by the name of Shiraishi, who ends up being a terrific foil and adds to the perfect chemistry of the group to make the series even more entertaining. But the series also is really sly and sneaky. Why? Because under the facade of an action-adventure story, once you pull off the mask, the show reveals itself to be a gourmet series. Most, if not all of the episodes of Golden Kamuy specifically dedicate several minutes to food. From what to do with hunted game in the wild, Ainu cuisine, or hell, just drinking Sapporo in Sapporo at a bar that's totally not product placement. I say that with sarcasm, but really, it's so well done, and it just fits the timeline, so who knows? Oh, you thought this was a series about a gold hunt? Well, you're wrong, mister. Let's spend 5 minutes talking about miso soup, and how it's not poop.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Just as I thought it would be. I mean, if you're Japanese, you gotta love miso.
That's great. This guy's willingly eating poop. We're doomed.
Seriously though, miso soup is freaking godlike. I have it at every restaurant that makes it, and if anyone tells me that they don't like it, then I have to seriously consider our possibility at being friends. But yeah, there are so many scenes in this show dedicated wholly to the food that our characters ingest, and they are all done in a style that you would normally see out of a proper gourmet series. It's just wild. But oddly enough, I never found it to be out of place at all. Like, the main drive of our narrative is our character's quest for the gold. Yeah, but I really did appreciate the times where the show felt it was prudent to spend time on those downtime moments in the evening when our characters can bond over good food. Also, it's important to mention that, to my knowledge, the show doesn't skimp on the historical. Now, I will admit that I know very little about the history behind Japan's indigenous tribes. I am not a scholar of such. But I did take note of how the series treats Sirpa's people and the respect that it seemed to show towards their culture. One of the reasons why I feel like I've never really heard much about the Ainu before is that, well, quote-unquote modern society, as it likes to do, tries to forget that these people ever existed. That sort of thing happened in the West, it happened in the East. Hell, I can think of only 2 anime that really bring up Japan's indigenous culture prior to this. The first being Shaman King back in 2001, and of course the second being Samurai Champloo. It's just really great to see a series that seems to take great care in portraying a marginalized ethnicity within Japan's own history. Of course, in fairness, I'm only really saying that they did a good job because through my admittedly brief research on the subject, the portrayal of the Ainu seems to be well received. But let's talk about the animation, shall we? Specifically that bear though. Mostly because, look at it! Look at this CG monstrosity of a bear. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this was due to some kind of creative decision or cost-cutting measure, but the animals in this series are all done up with CGI, and it doesn't blend well. The models themselves are not horrible. What's horrible to me is how they interact with the scene. This is done in more subtle ways elsewhere, like a campfire. That's what looks like actual fire CG'd in place next to animated characters. But a blending between different elements can work, can be seamless, or at least mostly seamless to the audience enough so that it doesn't ruin the immersion. However, it just didn't happen here. Though, to be fair, there are times when the animals are done in 2D as well, but I can't say that it's as realistic as they might want those 3D moments to be. The differences, though, are just too much, and it makes me want to pause the video every time I see it. Kinda like what I did earlier on. So, yeah, let's move on before I feel obligated to play that clang sound effect from Berserk to remind people that there is worse CG. As far as the audio is concerned, I do need to give massive props to the dub team at Funimation. Specifically, Ian Sinclair, Monica Rial, and Ben Phillips, who voiced Sugimoto, Asurpa, and Shiraishi respectively. It's rare that I like a simul-dub so much that I actively hold off on watching the show until it's finished being dubbed so that I could watch it first that way. The chemistry between all the voice actors uniquely matched that of the characters, and it made for some very easy watching. Like, I can appreciate a good sub, and I'm not one who finds reading subtitles to be at all cumbersome, but God, can I appreciate a good dub. The other thing, audio-wise, worth mentioning is the soundtrack. Or rather, since the OST hasn't been released and may not be, and I don't have much to say on it. Anyways, let's just dedicate this big shout out to the fact that Man with a Mission is an awesome group. I love their music, and Winding Road is an amazing song that got turned into a stellar opening for the show. So much so that I am proudly adding this opening to the I watched it every freaking time club for anime openings. It's just that good. And now for the but. Specifically the I like this show a lot, but I'm in a weird predicament because while I do generally love and adore much of the show, parts of it could be considered unnecessary to the plot despite my love for them. This includes the food bit, the comedy, and since we have only 13 episodes in this first season, there is the worry that things are progressing a little too slowly. Now, keeping in mind that Season 2 is just around the corner at the time of this video, and remembering that the original manga is still ongoing, this is not terribly surprising, nor should it be immediately worrying. That said, when I'm marathoning a series and I get into the habit of just hitting the next button to continue watching the show, it's incredibly annoying and disheartening when I have to spend a moment in disbelief that the next episode button isn't working because I had reached the end of the season, despite the fact that that's not coming across at all in the show's material itself. Episode 12 does not feel like an end. It feels like just another episode, which is okay because it was an entertaining episode, but if I didn't know that there was going to be another season after that, man, would that have been a sour note to leave off on. And my worry is that it is going to happen again. Season 1 only covered about 50-ish chapters from the manga, a manga that currently has about 171 chapters released at present. We could have a full 24-episode season, and that'll only just get us caught up to the manga. Say nothing about actually finishing the story, about finding the One Piece or whatever, which is what ultimately worries me about this adaptation's future. Just looking at likely outcomes, we are on track to either not have the series adapted fully, so we'll never get a resolution to the plot, not a good end, or it could rush the whole thing and then give us an anime-only ending, which isn't that good either. That isn't because of the anime-only ending itself, but more so that it'll more than likely have to skip over a lot of the black comedy and development of our characters in favor of blitzing to the end. And considering that those are some of the best parts, it's almost the least ideal option of them. It saddens me that this series might become yet another one for which I'll never get to see an adapted resolution. But perhaps that's just me being entirely too pessimistic. It could go fine. It could go fine. And I want it to go fine. I really do. I have been enjoying the hell out of this quirky quasi-adventure series, and I both do and don't want it to end. An ending would be great because I want to see a happy resolution for these characters, to see that resolution adapted into anime format. But a part of me doesn't want it to be over because I really do enjoy these characters too damn much. Their style, their humor, their determination to see the next day. One of the first things that I noted when I sat down to watch the first few episodes as it aired way back when is something that I've said about many shows, and that was Golden Kamuy doesn't know what kind of show it wants to be. And I came to that conclusion after seeing its assorted mismatches of different genres and themes, but now, having finished the series, I think differently. It's not that Golden Kamuy doesn't know what kind of show it wants to be. It's that it doesn't care what kind of show it is, and it's able to be enjoyable regardless of whatever genre you want to label it with. I'm not gonna say that the series is perfect or a masterpiece, especially when the narrative is unfinished. But hey, any series that sings the praises of miso soup is good in my books. As such, I would like to present Golden Kamuy with the glass reflection rating to buy it. It is a fantastic series for what it is, and my only real sticking point at present is how much of the narrative is going to be adapted. If future seasons leave us hanging, I will not be a happy panda. But until then, especially with Season 2 about to start up, I'm holding out hope. The series is available for legal streaming over on Crunchyroll in sub and Funimation in dub if you have access to either of those sites. And while There is no date yet for a physical release here in the West. I'll be very surprised if that's not going to be a thing in the future coming from Funimation. For alternate anime recommendations, I would like to start you off with the aforementioned Samurai Champloo for taking a look at Japan's rich history, though admittedly with a much less realistic style, albeit one that is still fantastic to watch. Second recommendation goes to the anime film Sword of the Stranger, which is like if Golden Kamuy was a shit ton more serious than it currently is, while still maintaining its high entertainment value. Both of these anime will be fantastic for you if you watched and enjoyed Kamuy, and I recommend both. Lastly, a very special thanks to my patrons who not only support my work in general, but allow me to do these videos that I like to do because I'm passionate about them on a regular basis. I do love and appreciate you all. Specifically though, as I like to do, I want to give particular shoutouts to patrons Calhoun Boy, Siri Yamako, Victor Ekmark, Ryfen Bonaparte, Rune Jacobson, and Joshua Garcia for being especially awesome. You guys are great. And until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and others, watch more anime and stay frosty.